Hello and welcome back to the Shop of Joy, the podcast that celebrates the heart and the soul of retail. Whether you're serving on the shop floor, you're leading a team, or simply someone who loves a brilliant customer moment, this space is for you. Each episode, we'll explore how to turn your store into a joyful place for your customers, your colleagues, and just as importantly, for yourself. In today's episode, we are talking all about personalisation. Now, personalisation is such a key part of modern retail. In this increasingly disconnected world, what customers are now looking for is ways that their retail experience can be personalised. Why does it feel like it's just them walking into the shop? Why does it feel like they're in this customer bubble that nothing else can touch, even though there's a lot of other customers walking around shopping? How do you create that experience that it feels like this experience is not an off-the-shelf experience? This has been tailor-made just for that customer. Now, personalisation can go wrong, right? And regularly, I've seen it go wrong because I went into a car dealership recently and they must have used my name 7 times within 2 minutes, right? Sam, I want to show you this. Sam, I think this will work really, really well with this. Sam, we can do finance for this. And it felt like they'd literally just read How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Now, that's a great book, don't get me wrong, and I highly recommend reading it. It gives you some fantastic worldview about personalization. However, you cannot just start repeating somebody's name and call that personalization. And if you do it too much, customers know what you're trying to do, okay? So today we're going to dive into how to personalize the experience in a way that feels great for the customer and it feels also great for you, okay? So remember, when you give a great experience, you actually get joy back. And that's the loop that we're aiming for. We're giving out joy and we get joy back. And that's really what it's all about. So what we first got to talk about is what personalization isn't. As I mentioned before, there's so many ways that you can get personalization wrong. And the first one is not repeating someone's name 7 times in 2 minutes, as I've mentioned, because it is obvious. All right. Now, we're going to talk about the importance of names a little bit later on. And it's very, very crucial that you get a customer's name and you give your name. But if you overuse that name, it looks like you're trying to play a psychological trick on that customer. It's no secret that if you use somebody's name, you make them more connected with you. But if you overuse it, it can creep people out, okay? So don't overuse the customer's name. That is not true personalization. Also, don't ask probing questions about family or lifestyle. So for instance, a product-related question, that's absolutely fine. So if, I'll give you a good example. I used to sell beds. When I was selling a bed, I could talk about how does that customer sleep, on their side or on their back. You can't ask the customer who sleeps next to you, how close do they sleep. These questions are way too personal. Okay, so asking a product-related question, and that will be able to give much more insight into the customer, is fantastic. And that's what you should be doing. You should be asking around 10 open questions every single time you're having a conversation with the customer, but a minimum of 3 open questions. But when you start getting into who sleeps next to you, how close they are, then you are overstepping the mark, and especially very, very early in the sale. So don't do that in personalization. Also, personalization is not about assuming things about the customer based on their looks or the customer's accent. Now, I promise you this happens more than you think. I've worked in and around luxury retail for over 18 years, and I've seen this happen so much. Remember, questions first. Don't come to any assumptions. You might think, okay, I can make this customer's day because I know I've spoken to customers like this before, and I know generally what they like. Never, ever, ever assume. That's really, really, really key. Ask the right questions, and then you can guide the customer to the right thing for them. And then finally, don't ever try and fake familiarity before it's actually earned. Okay, so getting too close, you see this a lot. Salespeople getting within 2 feet of the customers. So you have to earn getting close to your customer. Okay, touching the customer on the back, on the arm, on the shoulder, trying to create this rapport too fast, too quick, and making inappropriate remarks. So all of these things, you may think you are personalizing the sale, right? You may think that this sale is going to be incredible for this customer because I've been repeating their name so much. I'm asking all these really, really deep questions about their family and their lifestyle, and I know everything about them because I've asked 10 questions about them. I've assumed what they like because I've served customers like this before, and I assume this customer will want this. And also, I've got really, really close to the customer, and I'm creating a bond because I'm getting close. That is not personalization, and the sale is not going to go well, I promise you, and that customer is not going to come back if you do that. So creepiness often comes from speed. You're trying to rush through the sale, or assumption, all right? It makes you creepy, and that is the last thing that we want to be doing with our customers. All right, so we've talked about what personalization isn't. So let's talk about the good part, right? What is the right way to personalize a sale? So firstly, such a key thing, but so many people get it wrong. Active listening. Now, what is active listening? Active listening, right, is a rebounding conversation between you and the person that you're speaking to. And what do I mean by rebound? Well, a customer says something, for instance, like, okay, I'm going to a wedding next week. Then later on in the conversation, you say, okay, so for the wedding that you're going to next week, we're going to look and find this for you. It's showing that you've listened to the customer by repeating what they say a little bit later on down the line. Obviously, there's a lot of visual cues as well that go into active listening. There's leaning in. There's asking more questions related to what the customer has been talking about as well. But mainly what you want to be doing is picking up on the natural cues in the conversation and using those natural cues in order to show where the customer journey goes next. Then you want to make some contextual suggestions. So for instance, if a customer has mentioned before that they like bold prints, what you can say is, okay, you mentioned that you like bold prints. This new brand just came in and it's very, very you. Or you say, you mentioned you had a dog at home. This fabric is brilliantly pet resistant. So you're always making suggestions based on the customer's context. Now that's going to feel like you're really, really personalizing the sale for the customer. The next thing that you can do is you can remember the customer's past visits. Now, after you've spoken to a customer, you've had a really, really good reaction with the customer, what you should be doing is making some little notes about everything that you've spoken about with that customer. So you've logged it in the customer's database. I mean, the best salespeople remember everything about that customer that they've had in the last conversation. But I appreciate that a lot of times you may have hundreds and hundreds of customers depending on what style of retail that you work in, and that's not realistic to be able to do that. So in your CRM, you'll be able to log the things that you had, the conversations that you've had with that customer. So for instance, when the customer next came in, say, okay, you were looking at headphones last week. We've actually had some new ones in since then. Or, you know, the memory foam pillow that you liked that we were speaking about a couple of weeks ago. The newest memory foam has just come out. I'm desperate for you to try it. You remember what they've past come in for and you relate it back to them. That is going to feel like a very, very personalized experience. Okay, another way to personalize the experience is using your tone and body language and sharing the experience, not just facts. So I always talk about tone, right? Like a guitar amplifier. If you move the guitar tone on an amplifier, you get a different feeling, you get a different emotion out of the guitar sound. It's exactly the same as your voice. Then your body language as well. Remember, 4 feet away from a customer, always. and then the customer grants you permission to move within 2 feet of them, but always stay, when you're first introducing yourself to the customer, always stay around 4 feet away. And then give a shared experience. Okay, so give an opinion and a story based on their circumstances. So for instance, if somebody's looking for a sofa, you could say, I actually had a customer come in recently and buy this, and they had a 2-bedroom house similar to yours. They said it fit great, but maybe would have liked a different fabric because they have windows just like you that face straight onto the street, so the sun could affect the fabric. Now, how powerful is that? You figured out exactly what the customer might need, and you've related it back to something else that is going to be really, really key information for that customer, and you've made it feel much more personal than just walking into a shop and buying a product. Then the next way that you can personalize is sending a follow-up note about what you are discussing. So this is really, really key. And I'll talk about follow-up 3 times within a week. First time you should always follow up is as soon as the customer leaves the store, just a message to say thank you very much for coming in. Second time is 2 days later to see how they're getting on. And the third time is a week later to talk about different related products. There's much more about that in the follow-up episode, which you can listen to. But follow up with a note about what you're discussing on the past visit. Okay, really, really key and crucial in order to personalize the experience. And then finally, prepare for the next visit with a little surprise. So this is my favorite because we're talking about taking the customer experience to a next level here. And you take the customer experience to the next level by surprising and delighting and completely interrupting the customer's natural pattern of what they're going to expect when they walk into the store. So what do I mean by preparing the next visit with a little surprise? Well, based on your conversations with the customer in their previous visits, you should have had a little bit of an overview into the customer's life, into the customer's likes and dislikes. So for instance, your customer comes in, they have some fruit pastels in their pocket, right? They're eating fruit pastels as they go through. They tell you that they absolutely love fruit pastels. They can't get enough of them. They're a little bit addicted to fruit pastels. Alarm bells should go off in your head going, okay, fantastic. What can I do to personalize the sale and take the sale to the next level for this customer based on that small bit of information that I have? So when the customer comes in next, what do? You get a little glass cloches and you place them all around the shop with fruit pastels in. And when you're walking the customer around your shop, what do? They see fruit pastels, their favorite sweet, what they've told you about before, and they realize, hang on, they've done this just for me. What an incredible, incredible way to personalize the sale. So the key takeaway here is personalization is all about relevance, okay? Making the sale relevant to the customer. It's not about intimacy. It's not about trying to get as close to the customer as possible, trying to dig so deep into that customer. It's making everything that you do in that sale relevant to that customer. Now, the key thing is to read the customer and know when you need to back off, okay? So you need to recognize some signals when you need to back off from the customer and let them have some time to themselves, because the time to themselves in a sale is really, really crucial. Got to recognize things like customers giving you short answers. So they're giving you just one-word answers to when you're asking them the open questions. They're avoiding eye contact with you. They're walking away. See, even sometimes myself, I like to just browse myself, okay? The best sales teams realize this. They've spoken to the customer when they first walked in, and then they give them a little bit of time. And they pull back based on what the customer is, what signals the customer is giving to them. You need to give customers permission to browse without pressure. So don't stand by them watching every move. And sometimes the best personalization, honestly, is just space and autonomy. So think about when you're comfortable with somebody, when you're at home with your partner, when you're very comfortable with your friend, when you're riding the bus with a friend that you're very, very comfortable with. There are moments of silence there that they don't feel awkward, right? You can sit with somebody in complete silence and not feel awkward if you're feeling comfortable. So that's where we have to get in with the customer. We have to allow there to be a little bit of silence in the sale for the customer to feel comfortable. Don't over talk. A lot of people have a tendency to over talk and over explain. Remember, it should be 80% the customer talking, 20% of you talking. But crucially, let the customer breathe. Let the customer have a walk around themselves a little bit. But the key thing is to do all of these things that we've spoken about before, about the active listening, the putting them in contextual situations, remember their past visits, using your voice like a guitar amplifier, using the tone, follow up with a note about what they're discussing, and then preparing with a little surprise. Once you do all of that and then step back and let the customer breathe when they're in store, you're going to give an incredible customer experience, all right? Respect for the customer when they're in the store is the most powerful form of personalization that there is. So a final few thoughts. Personalization done right is a joyful experience. It makes people feel seen in themselves, and it makes people feel heard as well. But it only works when it's rooted in curiosity, not you trying to control the sale. So I've got a small task for you, okay? This week, focus on one small moment of meaningful personalization and then one moment of stepping back. And if you practice this push and pull, this complete meaningful personalization, and then this stepping back and allowing the customer to breathe and explore for themselves, and you do that with every customer, you're going to have customers for life. And not just customers for life, customers that shout about you, shout about your brand, shout about your shop, and you're going to have advocates for your brand and business. And that is truly what giving a fantastic customer experience is all about. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed the episode. And if you loved it, please share it with a retail friend. And check out the other episodes of The Shop of Joy wherever you get your podcasts. And just remember, right? It's the small moments done consistently that build up over time with your customers. And then you intersperse those small moments with these moments of pure magic and personalization. And that's truly where the joy is going to lie. And that's truly what will make the biggest difference. Take care.